Hello, my name is Dane Fisher, and today I'm going to be discussing the Boeing Company. This was a group collaboration with Heather Allen, CJ Bramman, and Justin Stewart. To begin, I would like to discuss the historical overview and timeline of Boeing as a company. Boeing is incredibly old, being over 100 years at this point, so it has changed quite radically from its initial conception. Boeing was originally founded in 1916 by William E. Boeing. However, at the time, it was originally called the Aero Products Company. However, by 1917, they renamed to the Boeing Airplane Company, which they said they sold flying boats for the U.S. during World War I. The 1920s through the 1930s, they sold various aircraft for the U.S. military, also expanding into mail transportation systems. By 1928, Boeing Airplane and Transport Corporation was created. By 1929, they then renamed to United Aircraft and Transport Corporation, a massive merger and acquisition of several other companies. A small thing I'd like to keep track of, that in 1931, 4 smaller airlines were also absorbed into United Airlines. By 1934, the Airmail Act of 1934 antitrust legislation was passed, which required the divorcing of aircraft manufacturing and air transport. 3 new companies formed, one of them being the Boeing Company of today. The 1930s and 50s was an era of military dominance in the market by Boeing, where they were edging out their competition such as Lockheed Martin. However, by 1958, Boeing decided to create the first commercial passenger jetliner, the 707, which went into service on the pan-transatlantic route. In 1960, there was a merger with Vertol Corporation, the world's largest manufacturer of helicopters. By 1970, the 747 jumbo jet almost bankrupted Boeing from its high costs. But due to its 400 seats, it allowed for a higher quantity and cheaper quantity of tickets to be sold to the public, giving Boeing a massive share of the market. The 1990s to present has been characterized by continued development in the public sector and private military sector. Next, I would like to discuss the resources and theory of the firm. Boeing, in my opinion, is a very well-balanced corporation, utilizing high upfront capital costs while also relying on countless skilled laborers all around the world to fuel their supply chain. The supply chain functions as the company's nervous system, connecting every facet of the business together, culminating in the creation of various Boeing airplanes in Renton and Everett, Washington, along with North Charleston, South Carolina. The fact that Boeing relies so heavily on its supply chain for millions of the parts that go into making their aircraft, I would say that most of their manufacturing occurs outside of their primary facilities. While traditionally you tend to look at the factories where they produce their products to determine if they are creating their own products or outsourcing, I want to take a moment and focus on the supply chain. The supply chain is so vast that it connects millions of pieces from every facet of the world together in order to create their aircrafts. In my opinion, that is by definition outsourcing, even though they do create their airliners themselves in 3 specific facilities.
Trade market and analysis. When it comes to talking about Boeing, Boeing is highly dependent on wide and global trade and supply. It is the single largest exporter in the country and relies on cross-border component sourcing to keep competition. Global sales are essential, with about 80% of its backlog coming from non-US airlines as of 2014. This includes aircraft, maintenance, cargo, engineering, etc., etc. And unfortunately, though, one of its major weaknesses is that it is hurt majorly by geopolitics and trade, specifically for tariffs, such as in recent times, tariffs between China and US hurt the total revenue significantly due to China's refusal of delivery, raising costs, and etc. And when talking about demand and supply analysis, a few factors come into influencing both of these subjects. When it comes to demand, global income levels throughout the entire world were impacted. For example, if the global income is at a higher level, then demand will also be significantly higher than low levels. Fuel prices also impacted significantly, with lower fuel prices being overall better for demand. Replacement and new models occur about every 20 years, 20 to 25 years, and will make it so that companies are significantly more likely to want to buy more products. And profitability predictions will impact on whether or not companies will want to buy more aircrafts for their airlines. And when talking about supply, global supply restraints impacted significantly, with it being connected to a vast network of different supplies, such as like metal, material, engine, etc., fuel, and as well as labor availability. Unfortunately, this will also highly impacted negatively if the world is short on skilled workers, which it currently is. Competition among rivals also influences supply, with one of the biggest rivals being another company called Airbus. And this will impact the pricing and supply for both companies. And when talking about supply and demand curves, as the price goes up, quantity supply also goes up due to high prices covering the high production costs. And as price goes down, quantity demand goes up, with low prices making airlines want to buy more aircraft.
Prices of tickets for Boeing airplanes are influenced by time of year and type of travel. Leisure travel, such as people on vacation, are more sensitive to price changes with an elasticity of 1.89, whereas business travelers have an elasticity of 0.375. It's very important that airlines take elasticity of business and leisure consumers into consideration when setting prices. Airlines will raise prices for business class given the urgency of business. Elasticity also depends on days from departure, from negative 0.57 for 1 to 2 days, negative 1.36 for 8 to 4 days, and negative 1.89 for 22 to 28 days from departure. Elasticity also changes on different days of the week. Tuesdays and Mondays are the most inelastic, and Saturdays and Sundays are the most elastic. This goes with price sensitivity arguments for leisure and business flights. Production starts around 89 million and goes up to 444 million for a Boeing plane. A Boeing 373, a popular size, starts at around 121 million to produce. However, used planes can be 20 to 60% cheaper. Of course, many factors go into determining the price, like model size and age. A big factor to consider when manufacturing a plane is also the money earned versus money spent. When it comes to adding more seating, on the one hand, more passengers will bring in more revenue, and on the other hand, more passengers means more weight and fuel being used. Premium amenities such as lounges and Wi-Fi can add around $10 million to cost. Hourly pay for employees. Aircraft mechanics is around $30 an hour. Flight attendants make around $25 an hour, and materialist specialists make around $23, and maintenance technicians make around $30 an hour.
Hello, I'm CJ Branham, and this is my part for this project. I'm going to talk about the market structure and the externalities of the Boeing company. We're going to start with the market structure. It is a duopoly, which is a subtype of oligopoly between Boeing and the other company Airbus, which provide a vast majority of all consumer air travel equipment, planes and so forth. And between it and Airbus, it has most of the market share. But between the two, it's roughly equal. Moving on to the externalities, both positive and negative. We're going to start with the negative externalities, which have become extremely public in the last several years, where they've started moving away from very fine-tooth combed quality control and towards more money saving and profit producing, where this has publicly killed a lot of people in the last couple of years, including 20 in this year. However, moving to the positive externalities, they have a lot of environmentalist grants as well as a lot of job creation.
After rigorous analysis of the Boeing airline company, we have been in deep discussion regarding if we would buy the stocks. I believe I speak pretty collectively for us that we would not. Boeing has been on a very stark decrease in stock value since 2019. They never truly recovered from the pandemic. And while in the traditional sense of investing, you tend to buy companies when they're at their all-time low, so you can get them when they're marked down when there is a negative externality in the market like COVID-19. However, leading up to 2019, there was very little stock growth until 2018 to 2019, where it skyrocketed and then plummeted. I think it was a one-time spike in the market that really wouldn't occur again. I believe Boeing has failed the public sector quite vigorously in the last 12 months. A lot of people have died due to cutting costs on safety features. And it's hard to get the public to get behind supporting a company that is willingly killing them and attempted to cover that up. So that's something you really have to keep in mind when buying a stock regarding a company, if they value their customers, and in my opinion, Boeing doesn't. If you would like to discuss the military private sector of Boeing, I believe they've had a fair bit more success. They won the military contracting for the F-35 under the Trump administration, which will do great things. It's the first next-gen fighter. It's the first next-gen fighter that Lockheed Martin hasn't produced out of the last, I believe, 4 models. I may be incorrect there. But Lockheed's historically had more control over that market, and Boeing's now making its way into there. And this can kind of be viewed as the federal government trying to bail out Boeing for their failures in the public sector. It's been a very hot topic of debate amongst people that have an interest in the airline industry and in next-gen fightercraft development.
I mean, that about covers it. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't personally buy this stock. It's not looking like it has very much growth potential where it is right now. Even before it plummeted, it wasn't growing that much, and it will not even now, just because of partially because of how much regulation there is in the airline industry. There's not a lot of options for growth, and even when they tried to, create more growth by cutting back on the quality of safety features, they created more negative externalities than they produced. Then they produced positive externalities. Including the deaths of many people.
Yeah.
What were deaths last year?
They were this year, at the beginning of this year, when the Trump administration cut funding to, it was the Air Safety and Control Department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then because of the lack of sonar being used for controlling the actual airlines while they're in the sky, along with Boeing's cutting of quality and materials, it just caused a lot of people to die, sadly.
Speaking about the Trump administration, another pitfall of Boeing that's currently happening right now is the rapid increase of tariffs and trade wars going on throughout the world, namely China, which is one of the world's biggest exporters. There have been multiple instances of China outright refusing to take in new aircrafts and more exports. So this also hurts the exportation of different aircrafts throughout airlines, and will also hurt the overall total revenue and therefore stock of Boeing.
Any other points, maybe I know people are having issues with travel, especially international travel. Could that affect people aren't flying as much?
Oh yeah, very stark immigration policies that are popping up around the world have made it very difficult for not even just moving to other countries, but visiting them. It's far more stricter than it has been within the last, let's say, 40 years. It's been a very stark increase. It's really mimicking, at least in the United States, Trump 1.0, which was in 2016. But it's it's pushed far past that, and it's basically restricting the airline industry to not allow people to move as freely as they want. And airlines are trying to combat that by lowering cost of tickets for the average consumer, which is good, but they're cutting corners to do so. And if you're cutting corners in your safety features, you're not protecting the interests of your customers. So I personally would not buy into Boeing. I have a Roth IRA that I've been investing in for 2 years now. I would not include Boeing in that list. We do like a little hand raise to say that we would, if we will or not.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Raise your hand if you would buy Boeing stock. Well, I think that summarizes this presentation. Thank you.